Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, 5011 fam. How y'all is?
Hey, yo.
Yes. Mm. I was about to go into a whole song and
Hey,
dance right there.
yo. I love
Um,
that song.
we are back, y'all. Jay and
We
Dee
back.
Dee here at the 5011 Chronicles doing what we do, having conversations that spark conversation. And this conversation right here, this is one of those conversations for you to go ahead and bookmark this one right here because we're going to go in.
Bookmark it,
We're going to
save
be,
it.
yeah, bookmark it, save it, download it, and share it. Period. Because this one right here is going to be a conversation on marriage. Interestingly enough, it's going to be a conversation on marriage. So, from two single people, we thank you for tuning in to the 5011 Chronicles. We finna get into it. It's wild because I'm gonna say this real quick. I'm gonna let Dee set this up because Dee brought the idea, and I think it's a wonderful idea. And just as things have been going on, I know that y'all have been seeing some of this. Some of you have no clue what's going on, but it's a trend and a conversation that I think at this point we need to have because I think it's been kind of like on both of us. So, marriage. We're gonna be having a whole conversation about marriage, and it's interesting because again, we are two unmarried individuals who low key, I mean, we like the idea of dating, but also don't like people.
Yes.
You can love
But you
people
know
and not
what,
like
too?
people.
A lot of people always say, like, don't, married people shouldn't take advice from single people, but I feel like you should. Because I feel like
I think you
single
should.
people have the best, healed single people have the
Healed. Come
best
on now.
vantage point. Because at the end of the day, whether you're single, married, or whatever, healed people can see the chaos in any situation, whether they're going
Hmm.
through it, been through it, or not. And I think
Period.
some things you don't have to go through to understand. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are certain things in life that I'm like, oh, okay. Like giving birth is something that you just got to go through to
You got to
understand.
go through
You'll
it.
never know.
You got to go through it to give
No matter
advice on
what
that.
your gender, race, or whatever is, you will never know until you actually go through it. But at the same time, a doctor who has never had a child can deliver your baby and give you advice and
Hmm.
help you with your parenting. They
Period.
can also do that. So not to say that we are, doctors of marriage, but it
I feel like
correlates.
we're
It
doctors. I mean, we're
correlates.
like doctors. We're like doctors of relationships. I think it checks. It checks. Because I think, and that's one thing I can say about both of us is that being people who have done work, and when you do the work, it becomes one of those things that people recognize in you. The more
Mhm.
work you do, even without you saying it, they can be like, this is somebody I should probably let me check and see if they got the capacity to handle some of this that I got going on.
Exactly.
And as empaths, it's just natural for people to flock to you and be like, this is what I got going on. So,
Even
I,
therapists have therapists. So it's like you
period.
don't have to be perfect or an expert or went through it
Hmm.
to understand or
To
look at the
understand,
situation and maybe even just use common sense. Because I feel like a lot is where the common sense gets left out.
gets lost. She did not log
It don't
into
be
the
that
chat.
common.
She did not log. It's rare at this point. So, D, I want you to go ahead and set this up because some of what these people have been seeing and have been talking about on the line,
Jay ain't been
child,
seeing and talking about in life.
at all.
So y'all,
Very little.
it's been so if you have been on, all the Instagrams and the socials and all this stuff, there's been a few things going viral the last few weeks. You had Kirk Frank. The first thing I saw was Kirk Franklin's interview with Cam Newton, where Kirk Franklin basically, one of the things that he touched on, one of the clips that went viral, was him discussing how marriage in like the church can be used as a weapon sometimes. And he spoke on how like sometimes people, they'll make it seem like people can't be used by God or won't be as blessed or won't get as much if you're not married, or being married puts you on a higher level or pedestal or whatever. I don't remember the Bible saying it could get you into heaven, but that's what they make it seem like sometimes. But I don't know. The other thing that had been going on was Cam Newton also interviewed Dr. Bryant, where, she discussed high value or high functioning people men and women. She kind of discussed with him relationship dynamics, broken homes, how people compartmentalize or explain away things for like Cam Newton's situation with him being, he has like 8 kids, I think by like 3 different women, and he's not married. He said he wants more kids. She asked from who. He said he just want God to just send them.
Because that's how it works.
He's also currently in a relationship and just had a baby. So I don't know how that works. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go off, Cam.
And it was interesting because when he posted the interview with her, the title after like all because after the clips went viral and people basically was like, "Dang, she basically got you together and told you what it is." And the title of it was like, it said something like single relationship expert, something like that, like emphasizing that she was single and her age and other stuff like that. And I'm just like, it was like, when I say shady, it was
that's what it sounded like.
It was direct. And it was, you could tell that it was done intentionally because he felt some type of way, or whoever put it up there felt some type of way.
Some kind of way, yeah.
Or and it's like, it was crazy how because she's not a married woman, all of a sudden her opinion does not matter. She also sat down with Nick Cannon, where he basically told us he be manipulating women. He gonna be whatever you need him to be until he get what he wanted. He toxic Nick. But at the same time, tried to downplay her and what she was saying. And it's like, then you had divorce after divorce. You had Judge Matthew's wife after 39 years. And tried to people in the comments, girl, you might as well have stayed. You don't know how unhappy that lady is. If after 39 years, she felt the need to get up and go, that should tell you something. That should tell you everything you need to know.
And you also, like, they also don't know how long she's been unhappy.
Exactly. And that's also a common thing in marriage. Specifically, a lot of women tend to be unhappy because a lot of women tend to, because of the way society structures it, be the ones catering and taking care of everything and everybody in their home, including the other adult who is also capable of taking care of themselves. But if you had Leah, say her name? Leah
Remini.
Leah Remini, after 20-something years, she's filed for divorce. Money Long was discussing how, she's been married for 9 years. She filed for divorce. And a lot of the theme on the women's side of it, you have 2 different types of women speaking up. You have the women who are like, yes, girl, go get your happiness. We ain't doing it no. Like, a lot of women are standing up, which I'm so proud of. Like, I'm so
proud. We love to see it.
Every time I'm scrolling, and it's just every day I find myself thinking of that girl in that video saying, stand up. Period. Saying like deep in country like her. I swear, like, that be in my head. And then you have the women who are like, you might as well stay. Well, y'all leaving. Why y'all going? You ain't about to find nothing. It's dirty out here. Why does somebody's happiness have to be tied to, like, why do you feel like just because she get a divorce, she's never going to be happy another day in her life? She doesn't seem happy when she was there. Probably why she,
because that's really it's really interesting you bring that up. I think first, before we dive a little deeper in, I think we should both talk about what our idea of marriage is, because I think there might also be some kind of,
I know for me, it's
murky understanding. Like a complete disconnect. Like, I'm over here like a murky understanding, trying to make it real cute sounding. But no, it's an absolute
disconnect.
It's absolute disconnect between what I think we might believe that marriage is and what others look at it as and what it is to them. I got a lot of thoughts. And I also want to get to some of that conversation, because we talked about some of it with Kirk Franklin too, and biblical expectations with marriage. So, okay, I want you to start.
Church kid to tap in on that one.
Right. I want you to start though. Like, what is marriage? What does it consist of? What is it comprised of? Like, what is marriage to you?
So, interestingly enough, I don't feel like marriage can be singularly defined. Just like I don't
Okay.
feel like relationship can be singularly defined. I feel like we tend to blanketly label the things that we do, and people don't discuss their own boundaries, meanings,
Mm-hmm.
expectations. It's kind of like this blanket of like, this is what we're doing. This is how society said this is supposed to look of what we're doing. So this is what this is. For
Mm-hmm.
me, marriage for me, it's more of like two people saying, I enjoy my life, but I also enjoy you. Would you like to do our lives together?
Together.
Not the
Mm-hmm.
same life, but paralleling ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We just go do it together. You could still have your goals, dreams, friends, ambitions. I still have my goals, dreams, friends, ambitions. We don't have to be velcroed at the hip 24/7.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You can go away sometimes if they want you to. But
Period.
we are doing our lives together because doing it together makes it way more fun, way more interesting, way more supportive, way more, all the things that you need in
Mm-hmm.
companionship, more so than like the stereotypical roles of like cooking, cleaning, houses, cars, like that
And see, that's
doesn't
what's
come into
crazy to
place.
me. Because I'm going to say I agree a lot. I mean, virtually everything that you said is in my definition of marriage. I agree with you because for me, it seems like the disconnect with a lot of other people is that it's very role based, like a role based
Mm-hmm.
marriage where it's like, okay, when we get married, I'm going to be the husband and you're going to be the wife.
Yes.
This
And
is
these
what
are our
husbands do.
duties.
These are our duties. And for
I
me,
hate seeing that duties,
I
wifely based
completely
duties.
disagree. I just completely disagree with the idea of it being so, I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's just so old school, not even old school
Oh,
or traditional.
but
It's it's
it is
it's
at this
backward
point.
thinking. It
It's
it, it
it's
is. It
traditional. It's
is.
traditional at this point, but I feel like this isn't even what traditionally marriage was
Mm-mm.
for.
Because that's like, okay, I'm going to get into it a little more in a second, but like that's what the Bible part of it is too, is
Mhm.
because some of these expectations and what we're told are our roles in a marriage are not based on what the Bible teaches about marriage. Like that's really important to understand
Yeah.
because even with the marriage ceremony that comes from the Bible or is based on the Bible,
Is
that
it really?
is,
I always wondered where the.
we'll say base
So
because
much
I
to
don't
be
know for a
taught
fact
into that.
it's in the I don't yeah I should look into that because that's why I say base.
Concerned about marriage in the Bible only because in the beginning it wasn't like they were. You know how like in the beginning, like Adam and Eve weren't married. Like there was no
They were
like.
married. They were married, and I'll tell you
Look at
why.
that. Why were they married? Please
Because
explain.
when Eve was created, she was given to Adam as his wife. He was told, "This is your wife." So it wasn't like they had a marriage ceremony. She
Mhm.
came into earth from the biblical story. She came into earth married to Adam because she was of Adam. So she was married to him already with her awakening and arrival. There
And
was
that makes
no
me
ceremony. Yeah.
question what married meant then. Because
Mm-hmm.
even how when we spoke about how virgin meant something different, being a virgin meant changed over the years. I wonder if like the term married, because we also
For
know
sure.
it's canonized, interpreted, you
Yes.
know what I'm saying?
For
So
sure. I
I'm
think for
honestly
sure.
curious of like what the actual term was
Mm-hmm.
then and like what the actual meaning of it was then, because I feel like what it has become based on the Bible kind of is rooted in what Kirk Franklin was talking about, how they've used that and started
Mm-hmm.
to even with women, how the way women are expected to behave or what their role is, a lot of people say that they base it in the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like it makes me question, because I know how this world was set up that we currently live in. It makes me
Mm-hmm.
question, were
The
things
validity.
worded that way intentionally?
Mm-hmm.
Like did
For
they
sure.
change, like put the word
Change it.
married
Change
intentionally,
the wording intentionally.
change,
No.
like interpret it the way they wanted
Interpret it.
to,
Yeah.
like they did a
Absolutely.
lot of the stuff. It makes me
I would
question like
believe that.
what that term meant then. You know what I
Because
mean?
the way the Bible is described in, I mean, the way marriage is described in the Bible is essentially this union of two souls to one, in the idea that because we have unified, when we move forward as a union. We go through
Mhm.
like all of the examples of these ideal marriages they give. You have Ruth, the whole book of Ruth, which Ruth is one of my favorites in the Bible. Ruth was a ride or die. You want to talk about ride or die? Ruth was a ride or die. Like, get yourself a ride or die like Ruth, because Ruth was very much like, her husband died. He was gone. Her sister-in-law lost her husband. So her brother-in-law is now gone. The father-in-law dies. He's gone. So it's just the women left. The sister-in-law leaves, and the mother-in-law tells Ruth, you can go. You can go. You're young. You can get married. You can start your life over. Go do your thing. And the first thing Ruth did was she was a ride or die in the fact that you are still my mother-in-law because I loved your son.
Mm-hmm.
So where you go, I go. What you do, I do. Your people will be my people and your God will be my God. So where are we going? What are we doing?
Yeah.
Who is our God? Like, where we going, girl? What's the plan? And when they get to where they're going, the marriage that Ruth has to Boaz is again one of those where she brought this energy that now has been, because I also want to talk about the role of women, how it came from the Bible, because there is specific scripture where there's a one of the disciples, a prophet. He's out and about. He's ministering. He's evangelizing. He's going out into the place and having the conversations. And in one of the churches he was in, the women were assigned their seats in the back, and they were given this role of submission.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened. And from that, we've got all of the women submit to
So
your husbands.
who assigned them the role?
I don't want to lie because I want to say that it was Peter, but it could have been
I was
Paul.
like, was it
I
God?
want to say it was no, but and honestly, I don't know for a fact if it was a God-given word or if it was the word of the apostle, because that was the custom. Because even before then, the custom was the men sat in the front
It's
to
still the
observe the
custom, to
word.
be
Still the
honest.
custom, especially in certain denominations. It's very much so the custom where men are in the front and women are behind, and not even just black, but white, multiple racial denominations that have this the same experience. And it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting to me because when you look at, again, those marriages in the Bible that are deemed the big ones, the big marriages where they had the things going on, it was not the woman just cleans and cooks and takes care of the kids, and the man goes out and does all of the work. You see tension, you see back and forth, you see, because I think about Abraham and Sarah. Sarah was like, look, like any woman who has a problem will figure out how to solve it, whether or not she has her husband's approval to solve it. And if we're doing things just based on this submission thing, you would say that Sarah was entirely out of pocket. Was she? Absolutely, because you went and got your handmaid and you had her sleep with your husband, and that was not the child you were promised. You disobeyed God, not your husband. And God had to shift some things around and be like, I told you, because now I can't
She
bless their
disobeyed
line
God.
because she
Like,
disobeyed God, not the
be
husband.
clear, she
But
disobeyed
again,
God.
Abraham was the one who was obeying at that time,
Yeah.
until he slept with the handmaid. But that's neither here nor
Yeah.
there. But it's just interesting to me because we are in this age where when people talk about marriage, you look at the divorce rate being as high as it is. Over 50% of new marriages end in divorce, most of them within the first 3 to 5 years. And you're also seeing, like Dee brought up, in this era in particular, these long-standing marriages that have been known publicly or that have, been through some things decades long, ending in
Yeah.
divorce. Because also, a couple years ago, Melinda and Bill Gates, that was another one they was talking about. Like,
Baby Melinda got
now,
with
y'all been married 40 years. What? But it was again like we've grown apart. We're going our separate ways. And she was probably really like, I can't deal with the hell that is this household.
No.
Allegedly, neither here nor there. But for me, like I said, I agree with a lot of what you're saying about what marriage is. I also look at it this way because I'm going to say it, and it could be an unpopular opinion, but it is the reality. It is the fact of what marriage is in this country. It is also a combining, a merger of businesses. It is a business
Thank you.
move.
It is a
And if
business
it is
transaction.
a
Yes.
business move. So when you get
Yes.
married, yes, you can be in love and have the most perfect wedding and the most perfect love story. But when you get married, there's still a business transaction, a combining and merging and acquizitions
A
that
legal
happens. A
document
legal
filed
binding
that
document
you got
is
the
that
ex
marriage
permission to
license.
undo and pay.
And pay and go through a court sit. Like, you have to, people, I think, forget the reality that when you get married, there is this business corporate mindset also that has to be brought in, because people don't talk about, we were talking earlier about not, setting boundaries and not having expectations going into a marriage. People don't talk about the finances.
They don't
I'm
talk
coming in with
about none of it.
$150,000 of debt. You're not telling your partner that before y'all get married. They don't realize how bad you're in debt. They don't realize how little you bring
Hey,
in.
yeah.
Those things are important. And I think that when you go into marriage with the mindset of looks, or with the mindset of, I got it made now, everything's going to be good, they're going to
Mhm.
do their role, I'm going to do mine, I think that you're going to miss, if that's not what y'all set up with each other as the expectation of how your marriage is going to look, it's going to fail.
You
Because
know
there are
what
some
they
marriages that
said
set
though?
that up.
There are.
And they
There
work
are.
because we
Yes.
came with our this is what I expect to do. This is what you expect to do. We're good.
Yes.
Everybody's doing their job.
And you
Kudos
know
to
what?
you.
It's something really like one of the clips I saw where Dr. Brian, I think she was speaking to, I can't remember if it was Cam or Nick Cannon, one of the foods. And she was saying how like when you're in a position where like you're doing the work, you're healing, and you're in a place where it's like you don't have to be in a relationship. You're not looking for things that you need to supplement the healing that you aren't doing from whatever unhealed space that you are. So like let's say if you're very insecure, you need constant daily reassurance, or you need to
Hmm.
always know where this person is, what they got going on, who they with. But if you are operating from a healed space, you don't need all of that extra reassurance. You know what I'm saying? Or you
Yeah.
don't need somebody, if they don't text you back after 5 minutes, you're not losing your mind and
Hmm.
falling out on the floor. You know what I'm saying? She was like, I felt that because it's like, when I think about what I would like for me to even be in a relationship with somebody, when I think about the things, it's like, it's not like, oh, I'm trying to like secure the bag, or I'm trying to like, I feel like I got to do this or nothing like that.
Hmm.
It's more of a space of like, I don't need somebody to be my peace because I have it on my own. I don't need somebody to give me a safe space to be soft because I can do that alone. What I need
Hmm.
is you to not disturb what I've created. What I need for you is to not destroy the peace and the happiness that's within me, the healing that I've already done. I don't need you to take away. You should be
Hmm.
coming in to add, just like
Hmm.
I should also be adding. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And I feel like a lot of women, we have been like from the very beginning, girls as little girls are taught to, a goal of theirs to be marriage, to be a wife. Like that is something that you are taught. You hear all the time, and like the previous generations of women, literally, even in other nationality. I mean, yeah, other nationalities, you hear about them saying how like the women are trained from childhood to
Hmm.
be wives. But on the flip side, boys are not trained from childhood to be husbands. It's always boys will be boys, he a man, or even like Nick Cannon said, "Oh, I'm a man." What the fuck? Ain't got to do with anything. Like you're a grown adult with a brain. Your gender has nothing to do with your common sense or lack thereof. Your gender has nothing to do with you choosing to be manipulative or toxic. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
toxic masculinity at its best.
And it's
But
like,
I would go so far as to challenge that generalization, though, because what I will say is that I think we're at the point that it is a majority that are not being taught to be raised to be husbands, so to speak. I will say for our generation, at least where I'm from, I can talk about me.
I
I
was gonna
can't
say, the
even
South
give
is
no more,
also very
no,
different
yeah,
too, I
it's because,
think.
regionally it is different, but I'll say for me, the way that I was raised was not necessarily the mindset to be a husband. It wasn't really that. it was much more about the mindset of being a gentleman. And I'm really
Yeah.
grateful for that with my family, because I wasn't given this goal of marriage to ascribe to, which I don't really feel
Mhm.
like that should be the goal. I think the goal that we should be giving our children is to be your best self, whatever that looks like. If you want to get married, this is what a healthy relationship looks like.
Mhm.
You know, if you want to
Or
go into
find
this
out what
industry
that
or
looks
that,
like for you.
for you,
Because
because it
you
could, you got to discover yourself along the way. But I
yeah.
also think that part of like how we approach and view relationships is based also on what we saw growing up, like the impression we had. So I think that there is some root in there, because even going through and doing the work and healing, like for me, I think about now having done some of the work and realizing a lot of the faults that I and issues I brought to past relationships. Now, were they in the wrong foot? For sure. For damn sure. In a lot of cases, I was, I didn't have, okay, all right, we're not weighing the scales right now, Jay. All right. We're not reliving. We're healed. I'm healed. Um, but no, the reality was I looked back, and being where I am now, having done work and learned from those relationships, I even think about how I believe it's really important now to go into a relationship. And in those first couple of conversations in dating, what are your love languages? Let's talk about it. Let's know how I can show you appreciation in a way that matters to you. Because I've also been in relationships where, yes, I like a good gift, but gift giving is not at the top of the ways I like to receive love. It's at the top of
Mhm.
the ways I like to give love. It's maybe number one, number two. But like for me, I'm a words of affirmation kind of person. That's really important to me. Like I need for sometimes you'd be like, hey, I see you. I see what
Yeah.
you're doing. You killing it. Like, and I even for my friends and for my family, that's another thing that I appreciate. I get, because that is something that is a love language for me. It lets me know, one, the person does see me. They see what I'm doing.
Yeah.
They recognize that. But
Mhm.
in a relationship, that will go even further, because for you to go to the point of choosing someone, in some cases, choosing someone to unify with and maybe spend your life with, I think it's really important that you have as good understanding for sure of yourself, but some understanding of what is going to take to give that person the best experience in hopes that you'll receive the same, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Unpopular
Okay.
opinion. I do kind of like how I feel like we are all the signs. I feel like we are all the love languages. I think we just need
It's a
them
ranking
or at different
differently.
times,
Yeah, for sure.
or
We are
you know what I'm
all.
saying? Or
Yeah,
for
and
different
I think they
reasons.
even
I
say,
feel
like, even
like
in the book, that's a thought, is that like you might be all of them, and they
yeah,
might just rank differently. And for me, I
yeah.
am all, but they just,
Like I
some are
think
in
we just
different
value
levels.
we just value certain ones over the other. But I do feel
Hmm.
like it is important for people to not only understand all the love language, but be able to speak all the love languages. You know what I'm saying? I
Hmm.
think, and then too, I feel like there's this thing where like I feel like people value their romantic relationships more than anything else. Like you always see, well, I always see where like even in some of the comments and stuff that's been going on, where it's like people are like, "Well, that's her husband. She's a wife." I can't, st- I can't stand them. She's a wife. Like,
Hmm.
we get it. We get it. She's a wife, but she's also going the fuck through right now as a wife.
Hmm.
Why can't she unwife? But I also feel like too, like when you think about how people will put their friendships on like the back burner, or they'll even their kids. I was watching clips from the Braxtons, and there's like a rift because Tracy, rest in peace to Tracy,
Hmm.
she left everything to her son and put her son in control of everything. And now the son is having like issues with his father because he doesn't want to do things the way she let them. For like example, she didn't want a funeral or anything like that, but he did one anyway online. And the family felt some type of way about it, but he
The
kind of
son or the
felt like
husband?
the husband.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
And
Because I'm
the
like,
son and the husband are literally like having a rift right now because I guess the husband feels some type of way about him being in control, and the son is like, I
she
just
knew
want to
better.
do, like she told me this from
She knew
jump.
better.
But the
Hmm.
crazy thing in the comments, the people are blaming the son and the family.
Of course
And
they
they
are.
feel like, they're like, oh, the sisters are trying to manipulate. That's her husband. That's her married. Okay, and that's her son. And the son said a valid point when he was speaking with their lawyer. He was like, I'm her blood. You were married in. I'm blood.
Mhm.
Like, I'm
I
her
am of
child.
her. I've been with
Yes.
her whole life, and she's been with me mine, literally.
Like, and so it's like, but it's so crazy because I thought people would empathize with him and sympathize with him more, but they're like, that's her husband. Her husband this. Her husband. I was like, what about her son? Does her husband come? And you know what's even crazier? I don't know if you've ever seen these posts where people be saying like, "Oh, who would you save?" And people real life be saying they would save their spouse because they can have more kids. That is the most insane thing I have ever heard. Because it's like, are kids really these like replaceable little toys that you could just have?
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why. Like, I don't get that. Or it's like, how can you? I feel like if you aren't fulfilled, like you don't have friendships where you can feel fulfilled outside of your relationship, you're doing a detriment to yourself and your
To
relationship.
yourself. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I think
I
it's
agree.
so
Yeah.
weird. But again, child, I ain't married because the first thing I'm gonna say is, "You ain't married.
Well, see, and
You
this
don't
is
know
this
the
is the good thing about it.
conditional."
This is the good thing about it, because I do think we have slightly different opinions on this. Because for me, I agree, especially when the children are involved. But when I also feel like those games like Freak, Marry, Unalive, and Who Would You Save? Those types of games to me are so unhealthy if
They
they're
are.
not done in a playful way. Because when you start bringing real things, if it's not like a fun, playful, imaginary characters off of a show type thing, and you're bringing
Clifford.
real people, like, but it's
Chandler.
like when you're bringing real people into it, and you put people on the spot to say these things or answer these things, you really, one, you get a full picture of people. So sometimes it's really helpful because you know who you're dealing with. But two,
Mm-hmm.
I also think it's unhealthy. It's unhealthy because for me, when it comes to like relationships, like I would love to have children, a child one day. That'd be really amazing. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I would love to be married. And for me, marriage, I have soulmates who are friends that I love,
Mm-hmm.
thee being one of them. These are soul friends, soul ties that are really important to me. That is the exact same type of relationship I would want with someone I would be married to.
Boom.
If
And
we're
that's
not
exactly what
soulmates,
it is.
I date to marry. I don't date for fun. Like, so that's why I don't date, because I'm dating to marry. Like, nope, nope, nothing around here.
It's another
Nothing in
thing
this
that's
area
so
code.
weird to me. Like, I
But it's
don't
like, no,
understand casual dating. I don't
I
get
understand
it.
it. I understand it and I get it. Like, because I did at one point. And I mean, who's to say I might not one day again? Maybe my mind will change. I don't know. Like I've told you before, we're constantly in a state of evolving. So
Yeah.
I might evolve into another era where I might be in my dating era. That might be a thing. I don't know. But right now, like, like what I search for, and not even really search for, what I pray for, what I
Mhm.
desire to come into my space is a
Yeah.
soulmate, a romantic soulmate that I will marry and be with for the remainder of my life, or our lives together, whatever. And for me, I can see how in some cases that relationship might take precedent over some other things, because if you are married to your soulmate, especially, not, and I'm not talking about adopting it and just sticking to traditional
Hmm.
roles of what marriage is.
Yeah.
I'm talking about real soul, agape, unconditional,
Yes.
like love, real deal
Yeah.
love. That's what I'm talking. Real love. That's what I'm talking about. Like so I'm not talking about the little social media stuff and the trendy stuff and the hashtag love is blind. Like, I'm not, some of that is, I love
Not
love
too
is
much
blind.
of
So
my
that was,
bestie.
like, I really like, I low key do like Love is Blind. Sidebar, I binged
Never
Love
got
is
into
Blind
that.
UK. I binged Love
Girl,
It. I think you would like UK. I think you would like UK.
here's the thing. Is like, okay, so the reason why I don't, I'm not gonna lie. The thing with casual dating to me is like I don't know if I could meet somebody, just be out at the store and I run into somebody and they be like, "Oh, can I take you out?" No, like, I'm not going to do with you. I don't know you. Like, what? I don't
How
know.
else are
Like,
you going to meet someone?
for me, I feel like I'm
They're gonna
really not
send you a
I'm
letter and
not
be like,
dating
"Hey,
somebody that I'm not friends with. Like you can text me. Well, I don't like text.
mm-hmm,
You can call me sometimes. We can chat. We can get to know each other. But I feel like, how do I know that I want to date you if I don't know you? You know what I'm
period."
saying? Like
But
when
how
you
are you
see
going to
me,
know them?
you just see something that you like. You have no idea who I am. You know nothing about me. So how do you know you want to
I
go
want
out
to
to eat
challenge
with
you.
me?
I want to challenge you. I want to challenge your thoughts because one, I have two things to say. One is with men, it has been studied, and this is something I can attain to as a fact. For me, my lived experience is they say a man knows usually within 5 seconds if he is going to marry a woman or marry
Really?
someone. They know it. It's a feeling. It's a feeling.
It's like your
And I was in a
souls see each other.
it's like you're so like and there have been a lot of people, men and women, I can say, because I won't say that it's just men. There are some women who see someone, I'm gonna marry that person, I'm gonna be with that
But
person
I
for the
feel
rest of
like
my life.
outside of that person, like where your
But I think
soul
that
is,
is the
outside of that,
goal.
no, I'm not.
That's why I want to, but see,
My
this is
soul
what I
ain't
was going
seeing
to
that.
challenge. This is what I was going to challenge is because like, even with making friends, that can
Mhm.
start like something running into each other at a grocery store, being at a concert, being at a restaurant, being like those type of organic relationships can form that way. We
It
definitely have
has
to
to be
carry caution.
organic. Yeah.
We definitely have to, we definitely have to approach with caution, but it makes me think of what I call like my life conversation. One of the conversations I was put on this earth because now I understand it and to talk about it every opportunity I get is that there's so much power in vulnerability. There's so much strength in a certain level. You have to adapt that level of vulnerability to the situation. Because if we think about it, it shows up in every aspect of our life. Making new friends. At some point, you have to get vulnerable. If y'all are going to
Mhm.
grow as friends, you got to get vulnerable. Going into a new job. At some point, these people are going to understand your ways and understand how you do that job. At some point, you might have to ask for help. Somebody might come to you for help. Somebody might have a loss, deal with something personal. Vulnerability shows up in that. Like any new thing that we do, any new hobby, you have to be vulnerable to learn. Because if you think about it, in a space of learning, to receive, you have to be vulnerable. You have to let
Yeah.
down a guard, a certain
Yeah.
guard that
Because
is
not
the
knowing is so uncomfortable.
isn't it?
Going into
So you,
something not knowing
in
is so
order,
uncomfortable.
and I don't know if it's just me, but I've had these moments where learning a new song or learning a new thing for a moment until I get excited about, I'm picking up on it. There's this discomfort about it.
Mhm.
There's this uneasiness. That is that vulnerable. I've let down this guard of what I know and what I know to be true. And I'm learning something new that doesn't match with what I have, my current understanding of it. And that
Yeah.
is requires vulnerability. So I think I want to challenge you and me too, because it's me too. I want to challenge us because even with the approach of the idea of dating, it doesn't have to be casual dating where you're dating somebody new every month, every week,
That's what I'm
whatever.
saying. You know I can't do
It
it.
can be the idea of being open and
Yeah.
vulnerable to receive someone into the space that we would be willing to date.
Yeah.
And not
That
willing, because
that
willing actually
space,
sounds bad.
I am at a space where I am open to be
Open to
blessed.
the idea. Well, definitely open to be blessed. But like, even when it comes to like, for me, that is something like the topic of marriage. That is something that I think about. And being that I'm over 30, Dee still lives in Wonderland. I'm
Well,
gonna
I
let her stay
remember
over there. Right. I'm gonna let her stay there. But I do think about marriage
hmm
at least weekly. It pops up in my head because I think about things that I see people do. And for me, I'm a romantic, y'all. Like I just have
I
to just
am
throw it
so
out there.
yes.
My I think Aries is in Venus for me, or Venus is in Aries. That's what it is. My Venus is in Aries. Just house of just love, just all lovely and just so hot in love and just passionate in
Of
love,
course.
romantic and stuff. So like, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Does it?
That makes
Break it
sense.
down. You can't just say that. Break
Everything
it
that
down.
we just talked about, your opinions, because for me,
Is
Taurus
that
is one
very
of those
Taurus?
signs. It gave me very Taurus, and I like it. Once you just did that, I'm like, oh yeah, because when I think of Taurus, I always think of like this, like firm, like
The brick
this is
wall
what it is.
stubborn.
This is like it's very like the bull hitting something. Like I
Yeah.
don't want to say bull headed because that's not exactly what I mean, and I don't want to say
hmm
stubborn. It's in that family, but it's
hmm
like this is like almost like immovable. Like this, I like
Yeah.
the opinion, the barrier, the block. It is just there, and it's like this is what it is. And every Taurus I've known has always gone back and forth with me, especially on things that I know to be true. Every single Taurus, because I worked with this girl, side story, I worked with this girl. She was a Taurus. I was her manager and I was training her. She was getting the leadership. It was going wonderful. And I would tell her stuff. Except this would be the one thing that would happen all the time. I would tell her something. I'd be like, hey, so-and-so, XYZ with such and such. And she'd be like, no, it isn't. And I'm like, yes, it is. And she's like, no, it isn't. I said, okay. And by the second or third one, I'd be like, okay. And then within like a minute or so, she will have done what she needed to do to see that I was right. Oh, so and so is in such and so. I was like, I thought so. Taurus. Every single time, I'd be like, I stopped arguing with you because you're not going to believe it until you see it for yourself. That's what I told her. I was like, after we go back and forth a little bit, I just laugh it off because I know you're going to come back to me and tell me I was right in a little bit. That's the Aries. So I'm just going to let you do your thing and I'll be here when you're ready to tell me I'm right. That's what I used to always tell her. Not the same situation here because I do think when it comes to things of the heart, especially romance and love, like you have to walk your own path and your own journey with that. But I want to encourage you to like approach it with a certain fine-tuned, refined, but controlled vulnerability. Like, because I like the openness, I think is a part of it that I too I've been missing in it. But it's not even the openness to other people. It's been the openness to the God energy of romance because it's like, I don't know. I love love. I love me a good rom-com. I love me a good little romance book.
With
I
Harry
love me a
met
little like
Sally, Sleepless in Seattle.
period.
Like, I'm with
Even though
it.
I don't always like her, I thought Made in
Pretty Woman.
Manhattan was cute. The wedding planner,
Made in
the
Manhattan was cute.
proposal.
Proposals?
One of my favorites of all time is the proposal. Right. To the wall, to the wall. Like she just was really I
That is my
love
favorite
Sandra Bullock. I love Sandra Bullock. Like I really do.
It's so funny
Good
that you
stuff.
say it's so funny that you say that. And then it's like for me, because I feel like what I want is unconventional, I feel like it makes it more difficult because we have these. So have you is this something that I don't know if they talk about this in the church, you know what I'm saying?
Let's
But I
see.
have seen like these posts where people will post like the like this umbrella of like what the household is, and it'll be like God, the husband, the wife, and and it's like stuff like that, the socializing of it all, because we all, boys and girls, were all socialized a specific way. Some people grew up in households where their household did not, they taught them young or didn't require them to go that path. Some people were just rebellious like me and just did what the fuck they wanted to do. But like we're all, and it's like for me to be a woman and be like, sir, I don't care about your house, I don't care about your car, I don't care about your job, I have a house, a car, and a job, thank you, good day. Like you're gonna have to come with like emotional intelligence to be with me. But then it's like a lot of straight men are not taught to be in touch with their feelings. They don't feel like they can feel their feelings. But I also went through a situation where you could be blue in the face trying to tell somebody, trying to be there for somebody and support them. And if they don't want to express or feel their feelings, you can't force that.
You can't
You
force
know what
them
I'm
to.
saying?
No,
So
absolutely.
emotional intelligence knocks out most of the population in the world.
It
That
does.
is
It
something that
does.
I want and require. You know what I'm saying?
But I want to tell you the correction to the statement, because God is listening, is not that all men, but the men that I've encountered. That's what I'm saying. The men that you've encountered, because there are like, I think the more that we move around this space too, the more we move around this world, we're going to come in contact with, because I honestly feel like we're not
Did I
going to
say
find
all?
our people where we are.
If I say all,
We're
I
not going
didn't
to
really
find,
say all. I'm going to say a lot of, not all.
okay.
But a lot of.
And then,
Because I
honestly,
don't care what nobody's
it
saying.
might have
A
been a
lot
lot
of. I'm
of,
not
it might
saying a
actually,
little
no,
bit,
it might
and
have
I'm
been a
not
lot
saying
of.
some. I'm saying a lot.
Because I honestly feel like our generation in particular, we're seeing so many straight men becoming emotionally intelligent. Some doing the work. Some are just coming out the woodworks and they've been emotionally intelligent for a minute.
The whole time.
Where y'all
And they've
been,
been guarded just like the rest of us. I think all we
guarded,
emotionally intelligent people are guarded.
are guarded.
I think we all
I
went
think that's a
through,
good point.
people will go, like the good people will go through heartbreak and one of two things will happen. They either shake it off, dust it off, and keep getting on the horse, or you become
Or
very guarded and
right up in
protective
that
of your
turtle shell.
space and your
Mm-hmm.
peace. And as a Cancer, I'm going in the shell.
Yep.
In the
Facts.
shell,
I agree.
you
Yeah. Yeah,
and
I
it's
agree.
safer. But it's like it's so much safer in here than out there. It's like you hear people like Nick Cannon say, I'm gonna be whatever you say you need me to be in the beginning. And then once I get to where I'm trying to get to, then you're gonna see me. And that's one of the things that, like, for me, for a long time, distorted my views of relationships in general. Not Nick Cannon, y'all, because I know this clip just came out. But but from childhood, having a parent where people view them and put them on this pedestal as like this amazing person, this person does all this for them, and da 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 da, and then that same person is a completely different person towards their child and doesn't take care of their child. Or you have these conversations with your parent of how did this, like, how did you and this person even get here, like what, and they tell you, oh, they wasn't like this at first, like,
Mm-hmm.
or even me going through, you watched me go through it because you know the person.
Mm-hmm.
And to see the night and day of how somebody can completely change once it's
Yeah.
not what they want it to be, or they're not getting what they want to get out of the situation, you know what I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
the way that they want it to be. And it's like that for a long time really put me in a space of like, I literally used to just be like, man, whatever, because it's like you don't know who people are anyway, so
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying, like you don't know till you know. So but it's like you can't throw caution to the wind like that either. I think for me, instead of being guarded, what would have helped me better then would be to be like, for one, learn your lesson. The main thing I think a lot of people need to understand is heartbreak is not exclusive to you.
Not
When we
exclusive.
go through it, we be feeling like, bruh,
It's
nobody's
just me.
experiencing this.
Nobody understands this pain.
Nobody knows the convictions of a life. I'm gonna keep saying it. Shout out to Portia Williams.
Yes,
But it's
Portia.
like people. What was I saying? I forgot what I was saying.
Look, all I can remember is nobody knows the convictions of a wife.
That's
No. Oh, heartbreak being like solitary.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
So the
It's
one thing
not
I
just
should
you.
have did was take a step back and learn your lesson. Everybody gets their feelings hurt. Everybody's
Everybody.
gonna go through heartbreak, whether you go through it romantically, with a friend, with a family member, with a dog. You're gonna go through heartbreak.
Facts.
You're gonna feel bad feelings. And I think we tend to kind of go through life, and when something bad happens to us, you internalize and personalize to like, why
Mm-hmm.
is this happening to
To
me?
me,
And really, these are just things you got to go through to get to where you're going.
to get to where
Us
you're going.
doing the
Exactly.
songs together has shown me that David and them was going through the same things we go. They
Same
was just as
things.
stressed,
So
just
relatable.
as sad, just as distraught, calling out like all of us.
So
And
frustrated.
they
God,
had
did you
to
forget
learn the
me?
same lessons we had to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we do ourselves a disservice because instead of just straight away taking the lesson and learning the lesson from it, especially if it's a situation where you were the person who feels like you were wrong, it's so
Mm-hmm.
easy to not learn the lesson in the situation and to take the lesson as being like a negative thing. I'm like, I don't need to deal with these people no more. Because that's where I was at. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, this
Right.
cool off all this. Not even doing this again. But it's like, no, like, even you had faults and you had to go through this to even figure out who you are, what you want,
Yeah.
what you need, what your boundaries are.
It had
Sometimes
to
you
happen.
gotta cross your boundary for you to know where your line is.
Come on now.
And sometimes it just gotta happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that because like because people feel pressured, because I don't want to just make it a gender thing like women. I think everybody feels that pressure at some point of like needing to be in a relationship. Because we can't go look anywhere in America specifically without that being literally pushed from childhood all the way up to old age. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I think too is like another thing other than learning the lesson, I think people have to understand that everybody is on a journey, and your discernment and your ability to know when to walk away from something can save you from so much. Because I will put my hand on the Bible. I will put money on it. I could bet you every good person you know, they all had not the best boundaries. And a lot of their pain could have been circumnavigated if they would have set those boundaries and stood on them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's easy. It's okay to be compassionate, but you gotta know when it's time for you to put your oxygen mask on, when you need to put your life
Period.
jacket on,
Mm-hmm.
and get your ass off the Titanic because it's
Come
sinking.
on now.
You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of people miss that, or a lot of people internalize what they go through, not realizing it's just a part of the journey. It's just
It
something you're
is.
gonna
It's
have to
just a part of
experience.
it. It
You
is.
got
It makes me
you gotta
think
get your
like
heart broke.
there
You just
was
got
there
to.
was so beautifully said. Um,
You
because
gotta
I
edit the
completely
parts out
agree,
of
and you
that.
actually hit something I was thinking about is that, and to piggyback off of the idea of discernment, is one, this is directly to you and our audience too. Y'all can use this too. Um, but it's the idea that you're not who you were the last times you've dated.
Mm-hmm.
You have more discernment, you have
Yeah.
more, you have more of that light, you have more understanding, you have more wisdom.
Yeah.
So we are not going to approach things, because we're doing the work, we're not going to approach things the same way we did in the past,
Yeah.
especially not if we're going into it with some vulnerability, but also with our sense about us,
Mm-hmm.
and like grounding ourselves in not the relationship, but grounding ourselves in ourselves and in God too. My child, if y'all have seen me throughout looking over to the side, it's been my child. So just know that that's what that was. But that was the first thing I wanted to say, is like, yes, discernment, like it follow the spirit, because it will let you know if you need to stay where you are, if you need to move on, pack your bags and hit the road.
And we don't
And
be
that even,
listening. We be doing what we want to do.
and that's, I think what is, and that was the last thing I was going to say about people, is that I think there's so many people right now who haven't been listening to the still small voice, who haven't been tapping into that gift of discernment, who haven't been allowing the spirit to lead and guide them, because they've been staying in relationships where they're not being respected, where their boundaries are being crossed. They've been staying in relationships where, they're being, taken advantage of in every different kind of way that they could be. They're
Mm-hmm.
staying in relationships with energy vampires who are taking every good bit of energy, whether it's financial, whether it's creative, whether it's physical, away from them. Like, the reality is that so many people aren't tapped in and aren't attuned. They're not doing enough work within themselves, whatever that work might look like for that person, to
Or
keep
they
themselves
drown out that
aligned.
little
Or
voice.
they
Like
drown out the voice.
you ever like I know for me, before I really started doing the work and like trusting my intuition, I think one of the big things with discernment is like trust. A lot of people, if
Mm-hmm.
you have trust issues, you don't trust yourself.
Yep.
Having trust issues is a clear sign that you don't trust yourself. And it's like, we'll have that little voice tell us something, and then we'll be like, no, or we'll tell it something. And we'll
Mm-hmm.
talk back to the little voice and be like, well, no, this, or we'll know that, oh, they just doing this because of this, or you know what I'm saying? Or like for me, my problem was, because I be understanding why people are the way that they are, I tend to give people the benefit of the doubt when I really, really care about them. And I tend to blur my own boundary lines.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, at that point, that's on whatever happens after that, that's on me,
Mm-hmm.
because I chose to overlook something or just kind of brush past something because I understood why they did
Mm-hmm.
what they did. When it's like, that doesn't make it okay. And that doesn't mean I have to deal with it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. I will say, and I've learned this too, empathy will whoop your own ass if you let it.
Mm-hmm.
If you let it, it will whoop your own ass. Because even my last relationship, there was a lot of that in there where, you know, there was some use of empathy on my part
Mm-hmm.
that didn't need to stay where it was at the time. I needed to withdraw that empathy.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily need to be apathetic, but I just needed to be regular. Like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't need to tap onto no extra energy. So, no, I think that absolutely. I think this was a conversation that a lot of people we're going to get out there so that y'all can hear this, because y'all really need to tap into some of these restructuring the way that you view and approach
Unwind
relationships.
your eyes.
Come on now, unlearning some of the things that you saw, and that, like, because there's just, this conversation is so relevant, especially as we see more people. I've just seen so many people getting married and rushing into these relationships again, only
Mm-hmm.
for them to fail, but also seeing people who have just for years dealt with cross boundaries, dealt with foolishness, dealt with things that they didn't have to deal with, because you could have just grabbed your stuff, gone to that place, got that paperwork done, and left. And sometimes
And
it's
to think,
comfort.
go ahead.
I was like, and sometimes it's comfort, and sometimes it's vulnerability, and sometimes it's risk that goes into it. But like anything worth having is worth working for. Anything worth having is worth taking a risk for, you know? And sometimes you might have to leave a partnership in order to find your peace. But your peace should be from you, not from another person. All right, I'm done.
Absolute. You just
You are
said
your peace.
a
That
word
yeah, your peace don't come from nobody
right
else.
there. And I
You're not gonna
think
marry
that's
somebody
the
and be
part.
happy.
That's the part that everybody doesn't get. People, because
Facts.
the way marriage and relationships were sold to us is that that person is supposed to make you whole. Absolutely not. I do not personally believe that people are two halves of a whole, but I do
Mm-hmm.
believe that people are yin and yang. I feel
Yes.
like for me, I want someone who balances me out, the me of me out, good, bad, or indifferent. You know what I'm saying? So like I have a very big personality, a lot of energy, and I have ADHD. I got a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
I need somebody, and I'm like an ocean. You know what I'm saying? Like I need somebody that's gonna be a mountain. The ocean can have a hurricane, a tsunami, a couple pebbles might come off, but that mountain ain't moving.
Ain't going nowhere.
It ain't going nowhere.
Nowhere.
And child, she be the ocean. If you warm her up, you might get you a hurricane, tsunami. Sometimes she real calm and still. Sometimes you might get a random wave for no reason. But hey, that mountain don't move. It's mountains in the ocean to this day from centuries ago that ain't going nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I need that type. I feel like people are looking for the other half
Mm-hmm.
when the other half of you is you.
Mm-hmm.
It's you and God. God is your other half. The God in you is your other half.
And I
And
think
you
even
and
reframing
somebody else
the
is,
wording,
yeah.
I think people even stop calling it just like this idea of other half. They got to stop saying just husband and wife because of what that meaning has been kind of turned into over all these years. The idea, I like how prior to, and I know a lot of queer people did not like this, but I liked how when the term partner became a thing, because now you see
Yeah.
even heterosexual, heteronormative couples using partner to
I like the
describe
term
each
partner
other.
too. Yeah.
Because to me, that's what it is. If you use the term
It's a
partner,
partnership.
it's a partnership. There's the business aspect of it, with the financial aspect of it. Then you can add the social and the romance and the love and all those wonderful things as well. Liking each other, having the same hobbies, having differences and things that make you, that is wonderful. You know, that's
Yeah.
what it should be.
Oh, little Marley. You better not be getting loud with my nephew over
I
there.
wasn't getting loud with him. I was being firm with him because he likes to have his way. He thinks he should
You
be the
better
star of
be
the show.
gentle parenting my little nephew.
And I've been talking to someone else longer than I'm talking to him, and he does not like that. But again, like I think that reframing instead of husband and wife and getting married, it's even the idea of companionship and having a companion.
Mm-hmm.
Like because
And
it's the
that is what I'm
things that
looking
the
for.
roles that we are actually fulfilling should be companion, should be
Yes.
partner. Like that's what it
Yes.
should be, not just husband and wife.
Yes.
Like I'm just so over that stereotypical role set
They
because it's
worried
so much
about
more than that.
house duties and chores, and it's like,
Hmm.
well, what about when you having a bad day? What about in 2020 when the world shut down and I just want a comfortable chest to lay on, a shoulder to lean on, where I ain't got to worry about the stress of outside, and I know
Period.
that this person I can be. We ain't even got to talk about what's going on outside. We ain't even got to talk. Your energy just brings me a level of peace and serenity.
Hmm.
And I like to be in it. Like
That
that's what
yes.
I just want to be in your energy. I'm the type of person, like, for me to get in a relationship again, it literally has to be that, where no matter what it is, we can literally do nothing, say nothing. I just like to be in your energy.
Hmm.
To me, that's somebody that I would marry.
And I feel like COVID taught a lot of people that their relationships were built on the wrong foundation. So I
Oh,
think you're absolutely
absolutely.
right. I think you're absolutely right.
Absolutely. And they still
Well,
out here talking about a house, a car, and a job. Like they ain't just lose it all 4 years ago. What?
big
I ain't
facts.
learned nothing.
Big facts. Learn nothing at all. The lesson went over their head.
Right over it.
But yes, y'all, my child is getting unruly. So I want to
Oh,
thank you all for tuning in. to another episode of 50 Chronicles, I'm going to go lecture him for 5 minutes because that is our new form of punishment. I just stand there and I talk to him.
And for our outro for Barley, he ain't nothing but a hound dog.
I'm thinking, it's my party and I'll cry if I want to. I just be like, we be having moments. I'm sorry, side note, 5011 fam, and we're about to sign off for real. But I'll have these moments where we'll just, we'll play, we'll have a cute little cuddle time. Everything's lovely. We're in our crate, we're ready for bed. Everything's good. And then randomly, you wake me up at, 3 o'clock in the morning because you want to be hugged. You better get out of my face. What you need to do is you better hug that toy I got you. It's fuzzy and warm. I got you a blanket, roll around in that blanket like I do. You better go on somewhere. It is 3 o'clock in the morning. The only things that should wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning are God or the ancestors because they want to talk. You should not be waking me up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Because the ancestors wake me up too.
Me too. And I just be like,
why y'all couldn't tell me this later?
Let me go ahead and pray and light this incense real quick. I mean, let me go ahead. Thank you, Lord.
Come on.
Now I have conversation. When that happens, peace is. I mean, sleep is where I find a lot of my peace too. I just nope. But yes, again, we thank y'all so much for tuning into this episode and listening to we relationship doctors. Our joint TED Talk here. Relationship experts that we are, but people who have done the work, people who have learned from our past experiences, and people who've been on the outside looking in on other relationships and just have seen like, okay, there's some things going on here, So we love y'all, and we will see y'all in next week's episode of the 50 Chronicles. Peace.